Okay, so it's 6. We will start. So, firstly, good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Fresh week. It's Monday, but still, we're going to deal with the same old chapter. Yeah, we have been dealing with it for a couple of classes now, but still, there's a lot to go. So, we'll quickly try to like grasp through some of the important concepts, right? And whenever if I feel like some topic is important in terms of examination point of view, I'll keep stressing on that fact. So please take down notes for that or like mark it in your textbook, anything according to your convenience. So yeah, welcome back firstly, and a couple of you all are already here, but let's just give it a couple of minutes for other people to join as well. In the meanwhile, I'll quickly finish the intro part. Yeah. So, most of you all know my name. It's Nikitha. Yeah. And I'm the history educator here at Unacademy Scholars channel. And I take classes for both standard 11th and 12th. As far as my educational qualifications are concerned, as most of you all ask me, I have graduated from Ashoka University with a major in history and a minor in political science. So that's about it. Quickly going about the Telegram Scholars channel. Yeah, so the link for the Telegram Scholars channel is in the description below of this video. If you all haven't joined already, you can go click on that link, like use that link and join the Telegram channel. It's really helpful because especially if there is anything going on the YouTube channel, right? Like for example, cancellation of classes or postponing of classes and stuff like that, you will be given information on the Telegram channel. So I highly urge you all to go join it ASAP. And also just to give you another update, regarding the quiz we had yesterday, on Sunday we had a mega quiz on chapters 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? So some of you all asked me for the PDF of the questions to be posted on the Telegram group. So yes, I did that in the morning, like today morning. So go to the Telegram group and then you will find one PDF of all the questions that were asked yesterday in the class, right? So you can access that also through the Telegram channel. So those are some of the benefits. Also, like there's a Unacademy Emerge scholarship test happening for standard 10th and 11th. So basically it applies to y'all. Yeah, so these are free live mock tests which are conducted every week, and these are aligned with the latest CBSE guidelines. So that will be like a practice for your term 1 boards, right? So I highly urge you all to go join it. Again, the link for this is also in the description below, and go enroll yourselves, right? It's conducted every week. And as far as Unacademy Plus features are concerned, there are n number of features. Firstly, you can listen to so many live classes taught by top educators of India, and everything is available on one single platform. So you don't have to juggle between different spaces. And also there are regular doubt clearing sessions, regular answer writing sessions, along with practice tests and live test series. So these will help you in order to prepare for your boards. And nextly, there is exhaustive coverage of syllabus. So that is one of the main important factors. Yeah. So every educator on Unacademy Plus platform, they make sure that they are covering the syllabus in a very exhaustive manner, in the sense that according to the themes or syllabus mentioned by your board. Yeah, so that way you're sorted. And then there's mentorship given to you, there's guidance given to you, also access to study materials in the form of PDFs. Yeah, you can refer to these just like some revision sort of before your examinations, right? So that will give you like a quick recap, which is again really helpful. And as far as pricing is concerned for Unacademy Plus, there are variations, right? To be very specific, there are 6 ranges of subscriptions. Firstly, it's a 3-month subscription, then there's a 9-month, then there's 12, 15, 18 and 24, right? The prices are clearly visible on the screen. Have a look at them and feel comfortable to subscribe to whichever one you want. But the little hack here is the longer duration you actually take a subscription for, the more beneficial it's going to be, in the sense that you are going to save yourself a couple of bucks by the end of the day if you actually subscribe for a longer duration, right? So that way it's helpful. And quickly moving on to Iconic, here the features are even better and greater when compared to Unacademy Plus. Yeah, in the sense that there's personal mentorship given to you, like a one-on-one session with your personal mentor. You can literally ask him or her for any queries or concerns you have regarding the subject. And there are live doubt solving sessions, there are weekly reports provided to you, along with a direct parent connect, basically between your mentor and your parents. And finally, there are study planners provided to you, right? In terms of timetabling, it'll help you, it'll make your job much easier, right? And as far as pricing again comes to, the durations are the same. It's 3, 9, 12, 15, 18 and 24 months, but the pricing might vary a little bit here and there. So again, the prices list is here on your screen in front of you. Have a look at them and feel free to subscribe to whichever one you want. Yeah. And lastly, before actually going on to the today's content, let me just tell you that there is some kind of special content you can actually unlock. Yeah. The way you can actually do this is, first of all, you need to download the Unacademy Learning app on your mobile phone, right, from the Google Play Store or App Store, and then log in with proper credentials like username, password and all that stuff, and then select your goal. Your goal is 12 standard, right? And then on the menu button in the top left corner, there is an option called special. Click on that and it will ask you for a code. Yeah, so you can use my code, which is TUM10, and then basically you will have access to the free content, right? It's special in the sense that the content there is more organized and systematized. Yeah, so that way it'll be very, very helpful. So yeah, so that's a little bit about the pitch. Before quickly moving on, let me just say good evening to whoever joined right now. Kavya is here with us. Hi Kavya, good evening. Okay. Okay, Aditya, you're a 11th standard student, right? Okay, but as far as the Menti quiz for chapter 4 is concerned, we haven't finished the chapter yet. So I don't really think we can do a quiz before finishing the chapter. And before October 4th, though, for sure, I don't think we'll be able to complete. But if you all want me to give a quiz on, what do you say, like half of the chapter till wherever we finished, then that is possible. But finishing the whole chapter before October 4th, I don't think it's really possible. So yeah, we have a class tomorrow, right? So we'll discuss that in detail. Yeah, we'll ask the opinions of other students as well, and then we'll discuss that. So just hold on till tomorrow, Aditya. Is that fine? Okay, just put down whatever your answer is. In the meanwhile, I'll keep continuing with the class. Okay, anyways, at 6:10, we'll dive straight into the topic. So today it's going to be a really, really interesting topic. Yeah, it's basically about the Chishtis. Yeah, so Chishtis are these really, really famous Sufi saints, originally not from India, but they have come from outside the Indian subcontinent, but later on in the 13th, 12th, 14th centuries, they have settled down within the Indian subcontinent itself. So in detail, we'll be dealing about the Chishtis today, yeah, and how much of an influence did they have on the local people, not just on Muslim people like who follow Islam, but also on the Hindu dominated populations, right? Irrespective of the religion, there was so much influence that the Chishtis had on the Indian populations once they entered the Indian subcontinent, right? Okay, so to start off, there were so many groups of Sufis, who actually migrated from different parts of Central Asia, West Asia, Gulf regions, Arab Peninsula, and all those regions. From there, they migrated to India starting from the late 12th centuries, like 1160s, 1170s, and roughly that particular timeline. But out of all the groups of Sufis who actually migrated, the order by name Chistis, yeah, so they are really influential. Like they had so much power, they had so much of royal patronage and all that stuff, that they were able to exert so much influence on the Indian populations, right? So again, Sufis is like a much broader term. There are so many different kinds of Sufis, different orders of Sufis, right? Out of which Chistis is the one important one. Yeah? So don't get confused between Chistis and Sufis. Chistis is a sub part of Sufis, right? I'm hoping that point is clear. Okay, so when so many people came in, why is it only that the Chistis was so much successful? Again, that should be an immediate question we need to answer, right? So the reason for them to be very successful, even though they are not local inhabitants, is the mere fact that they were able to adapt successfully to the local environments. They know that they are outsiders. They know that the customs and beliefs that they believe in are not similar to the ones followed in India. Like they know there's a lot of difference. But they put in so much effort to blend in with the local populations, right? They have adapted so many local traditions, local beliefs. Yeah, they styled their life in such a way that it is in alignment to the local traditions, right? So that merging with the local environment is one important features, because of which the Chistis became really powerful. Yeah. I mean, in a contrast, from a retrospect perspective, we could also conclude that the other Sufi orders, the reason why they did not become as successful as Chistis is because they did not follow the local traditions. They just stuck to their original beliefs and customs. Probably that might be one of the reasons, right? And that is what differentiate Chistis from other Sufi orders. Yeah. So that's a little brief introduction about who Chistis are, from where did they come and when did they come, and what sets them apart. Yeah. Now we'll actually look in detail as to what the life in the Chisti Kanka looked like. Yeah. Again, we've discussed what a Kanka is in last class. Kanka is nothing but a place, right? It's a place, or as your textbook states, it's hospice, right? The more technical term. It's generally a common place where people used to gather and discuss about various spiritual things, right? So it's like a gathering space. So all these Chisti followers, they used to have one special kanka, and people used to actually gather there, and they used to discuss so many things, spiritual things, social life, economic life, various other aspects, right? So what exactly did the life in that particular kanka looked like? Major important question, right? So first, to start off with, this kanka served as a center of social life. Yeah. Again, when you think of the word kanka, you immediately associate it with the religious life. You know, this figure comes to our mind that only people used to gather to discuss about religion, to discuss about spirituality and all that stuff. But no, I mean, that was there, like spiritual aspect was there. Along with that, social life was also there. Kanka was basically a place where you could socialize with people, interact with other communities, get to know each other better, and have like a proper social life apart from religious features, right? So one of the major centers of social life. So that's the first point. And the last point of the slide is, I'm pretty sure everybody must have heard of the Sheikh Nizamuddin's hospice. Yeah, it's in Delhi. Yeah, so again, Nizamuddin Dargah. That's like the more popular name to it, right? I'm not sure about the exact location in Delhi, but it's in Delhi. Yeah. So it was built in around 14th century. We look at who built it also in the later slides, but just remember that it was built in 14th century. It is the tomb of Sheikh Nizamuddin. Yeah, it's very famous, one of the very important Chishti saints, Chishti Sufi saints, right? So, and the exact location of it is on the banks of river Yamuna. Yeah. Again, if any of y'all knows where Gyaspur is, right? So in that particular area, there are banks of river Yamuna, and to be very specific, it is on the outskirts of the today's city of Delhi, right? That is where the exact geographical location of Sheikh Nizamuddin's hospice is, and it is really important. Like lakhs and lakhs of people from different parts of the subcontinent, sometimes even people from outside India, right? So many people usually come and visit Sheikh Nizamuddin's hospice all around the year, but especially during his death anniversary, there is so much of crowd. It's just tightly packed. It has a lot of fame, right? That's basically the point. And yeah, so what exactly did that Sheikh Nizamuddin's hospice looked like? Yeah, so to start off with, when actually Sheikh Nizamuddin was living, like before his death, when he was actually alive, it was just like a small space with several rooms. Yeah, so many rooms used to be there. Like he and his family also used to stay there. People from outside used to come and live there and all that stuff, but it was basically small, and also it had several rooms. Even though the space is small and the rooms are smaller, but there was one big hall. So whenever people used to come, they used to stay in that hall. That's how that big is. That's how big the hall is, right? So in again technical terms, it is called as Jamaat Khana. The spelling is here, Jamaat right? So it's called as Jamaat Khana. It's a big hall, and not just inmates, but as I was telling you, visitors also used to come and live there and also prayed, right? So that space was like a multi-purpose use, right? They used to sit and talk, they used to pray, they used to live, they used to cook, they used to sleep. Yeah, so it's like a multi-purpose hall, right? So that was Jamaat Khana, a part of Sheikh Nizamuddin's house. Yeah. So who are inmates, right? Who had like a permanent residence within that Nizamuddin Dargah? So the inmates actually included family members of the sheikhs, obviously. If he's married, his children and wife. If he's not married, his extended family, relatives, nephews, brothers, and all that stuff. Yeah. So all of them came under the ambit of the family members of the sheikh. Along with the family members, his attendants and disciples also lived as inmates. Yeah. Attendants are basically the servants, and disciples are people who actually follow the sheikh, right? So all of these people resided in the Nizamuddin Dargah. So where did sheikh live when so many people are living, and when sheikh has so much of significance? Okay, also by the way, whenever I'm using the word sheikh, I'm referring to Nizamuddin, right? So Nizamuddin actually lived in a very small room which was located on the roof of the hall. So like in modern day architectural terms, you could roughly say that he lived in a penthouse. Yeah, not exactly a penthouse, but I'm just giving you an analogy for you to understand where he lived, right? Roughly a present day penthouse, and his room was on the roof of the hall. Yeah. So when visitors actually used to come to see him, to seek his blessings, to seek his guidance and all that stuff, um, irrespective of what time of the day it is, morning, evening, late night, afternoon, people used to come and visit him because he was very important. He had that fame, right? So when people used to come and visit him, all these meetings used to happen in his room itself. Yeah, in his room itself, he used to meet all these people. And again, other architectural features of the Nizamuddin Dargah basically include, it has a veranda, yeah, the veranda surrounded the courtyard, and also after a couple of years, a boundary wall ran around the complex. Again, this boundary wall has a lot of significance. Yeah, it kind of used to demarcate or differentiate the land of the dargah with the outside physical world, right? Again, we were talking about stupas in the last chapter, right? So how stupas had this surrounding wall around the complex, like a boundary wall. Just like that, even the Nizamuddin Dargah has a boundary wall running around the complex. Even to our present day houses, right, we have all these walls to differentiate from other spaces. You know, like to demarcate your own space from the next house or your neighbor's house. Just like that, Nizamuddin Dargah also had a boundary wall. Yeah. So again, just to tell you what the importance of boundary wall is, for example, let's just consider one instance where there was a Mongol invasion happening. Yeah, this was roughly in like 12th century, 12th 13th century roughly. So when people actually predicted that there was a Mongol invasion going to happen on Delhi, on the surrounding areas of Delhi. Obviously, when invasions are happening, they will loot people, they will kill people, they will take away everything they have and all that stuff, right? So, fearing that, most of the people surrounding or like in the neighboring areas of this dargah, they just rushed into the Kanka to seek refuge. Yeah, because that kind of uh, power was there in the boundary walls of the dargah. Nobody would dare to come inside the kanka by crossing the boundary wall, right? Unless they have like a permission or unless they are like real devotees, external invaders would not dare to come into the kanka. So fearing that, people actually took refuge in the kanka itself. That's how important the Kanka was back in those times when actually Sheikh Nizamuddin was still alive. Yeah? Okay. Any questions still here? I do not see any questions. I'm taking that as everybody is able to understand whatever we're talking about today. Yeah? Okay, if that's the case, we can actually continue. But guys, please don't hesitate to ask any questions. You can keep dropping them in. You don't have to wait till the end, right? Um, cool. Again, obviously there was a kitchen, right? Because of the mere fact that so many people used to come and visit the dargah, irrespective of which time of the day it is, morning, afternoon, evening, anything. So that meant that whenever people used to come and visit, it was basic decency on part of the Nizamuddin or the Sheikh to offer food to them. Yeah, again, any humanitarian feature, any basic like that kind of gesture you want to show to your audience or like visitors. So people used to visit, they used to come during lunchtime or dinner time or some random eating time. So they used to come and they used to actually eat there. So for that, there was a very large open kitchen within the kanka, right? That open kitchen was called as langar, right? And it was run on futu, as in to feed so many people, you need so much of money and resources. You need to buy stuff, so you need money. So that money came in the form of funds or charity from the local people, right? So people used to actually go and eat there. That's the point. And yeah, as I was telling you, irrespective of which day it is, people from all walks of life, be it whatever occupation they are following, be it soldiers, be it slaves, be it merchants, poets, travelers, irrespective of whether they are economically wealthy or economically poor. You know, also like Hindu yogis. That's the important point here. Even Hindus actually used to come and visit Nizamuddin, right? So now you can understand the kind of influence he had on the local populations, irrespective of gender, irrespective of occupations, irrespective of religions, right? He influenced literally everybody in the empire, in the Indian subcontinent. Yeah. So all of them used to come to Nizamuddin to ask for help. Help in terms of what? So some of them came and they were like, I actually believe in whatever you say. Like, I'm a follower of yours. So please give me and accept me as your disciple. Disciple is like a member, right? Or like a person who follows Nizamuddin. So they came in search of discipleship or amulets for healing, right? What are amulets? Again, um, I'll just give you examples of amulets, right? So that you'll understand it in a better manner. Even now, like if you look at some people, they wear all these, some kind of threads around their neck, saying that it is holy, it holds some kind of religious significance, or some kind of things around their hands or legs. And so basically they have this holy association, right? Some religious significance. So these are called as amulets, right? So people also back in those days, they used to come for amulets. You know, like for example, I'm suffering with fever, so I'll go to Nizamuddin and be like, Nizamuddin, can you please give me an amulet? Because once I wear that amulet, I'll be rid of that illness. I'll be back very healthy, right? So that was the belief of people. That's why they used to go and visit Nizamuddin and ask for amulets. And lastly, to talk to him about various things in life, be it spiritual things, be it their social conditioning, be it like where they basically stand in life. If they have any problems, they used to just go and communicate with the Sheikh Nizamuddin regarding various matters, right? So that used to happen. And not just like common people, but also certain very important people, yeah, like officials, you all will call them, or like court historians or poets, whatever you want to call them. So even they actually visited Nizamuddin. Yeah, for example, people like Amir Hassan Sizzi, yeah, Amir Hassan Sissi, and also another poet by name Amir Khusro. Again, Amir Khusro is very, very famous. I'm pretty sure people must have heard of his name, right? 13th century poet. So Amir Hassan Sizzi, Amir Khusro, and also another court historian by name Ziauddin Barani. Very, very famous again. Yeah. So all of these people, they actually visited the Sheikh in his Kanka. They held so many conversations with him. They've had so many talks on different matters, and then finally they wrote about the Sheikh in their poems or in their books, in their writings. They actually wrote about the Sheikh, right? So that was how important his position was in the society. Yeah. Yeah. So back to the first point we've talked about, how that there was so much effort put in by the Chishti order to actually merge in with the local communities. Yeah, they tried to adopt so many local traditions. So what are some of those traditions that they adopted, right? So for example, features like bowing before the sheikh. Again, when you see somebody of such great importance, usually like bending your head or like bowing in front of them is a very brahmanical way of living, right? Like even if you see some Brahmin saint, you go like touch their feet and take blessings, or like just join your hands, like put a namaskar or like bend and stuff like that. These are already basically gestures followed as a part of the Indian traditions, definitely not external traditions, right? But when Chishti order people actually came into the Indian subcontinent. They adopted features like bowing in front of the sheikh and also offering water to visitors. That is again a very Brahmanical way. Yeah, Brahmins used to do that. Also, shaving the heads of initiates. You see so many saints who basically shave off their head, right? Citing some religious reason, not casually, but there has to be some religious association, right? And also yogic exercises. We all know yoga, yogic exercises. They were very, very inherent, like intrinsically a part of the Indian traditions. But the fact that Chistis actually adopted them. They were doing all this to assimilate themselves into the local traditions, right? So that was the major efforts that they put in to try and blend in with the local populations, right? So yeah, that's the first point. And when it comes to Sheikh Nizamuddin, he was a very, very clever person. He was very smart. Yeah. So he thought that this should his order should not be restricted to Delhi. Yeah. Till then only Delhi people know. Like people around Delhi worship Sheikh Nizamuddin. But he wanted his fame to spread over different regions of the Indian subcontinent, and that is why he appointed several spiritual successors from within his disciples, from within his trusted disciples. He chose a couple of them, a bunch of them, and said that, okay, fine, you're my next spiritual successor. Yeah, because you are, like you're following all the norms of the Chisti order very, very efficiently. So you are my successor. So he selected a couple of them and he sent them to different hospices in various parts of the subcontinent. So basically, their job was to go to different parts, spread the message of the Chishti order, and make people follow the Chishti order. Right? So that was the job of some of these successors given by Sheikh Nizamuddin. Right? So that happened, he was successful in doing so, and as a result, whatever teachings he was doing, whatever practices he was following, and also the organization of the Chishti in itself, that brand name or like the fame name, it spread to different parts. People from, let's say, people from Rajasthan or people from Bengal or people from Maharashtra, even they knew that a person by name Nizamuddin was living in Delhi, and he's a really, really famous Chisti saint. Yeah, so that kind of fame spread very, very rapidly, very fast, right? So so when people actually started believing in Nizamuddin, they want to visit him, right? Obviously, when I know that there is some great personality and I believe in him, that would be like my one time life ambition, right? Oh God, like I have to visit him, like I have to meet him, I have to talk to him and stuff like that. In the same manner, people also from different regions, they went in groups to go meet Sheikh Nizamuddin, right? Therefore, so that was kind of some kind of pilgrimage, right? Like even after his death, there was a dargah built for him, there was a shrine built for him. People used to go and visit that dargah, they used to worship that dargah, right? So because of all this, the concept of pilgrimage itself became a really important it held so much of significance within the Sufi order, right? So the pilgrimage gained importance, and the fact that he belonged to the Chisti order, it's not just Nizamuddin that people were following, but also other Sufi saints belonging to the Chisti order. They also gained a lot of significance. Yeah. So overall, Nizamuddin played a major, major role in spreading his fame, in letting people know of his achievements, right? So that's how he became famous. Yeah. So any questions still here, guys? Um, Okay, I do not see any questions here. So if anything, just please don't hesitate to ask. But for the time being, I'll just continue. Okay, so that was about the way of life that the Chistis led. Yeah. So now we'll come to Chisti's devotionalism. Um, it's also called as Jiyarat and Qawwali. So like under Chisti devotionalism, we'll be studying two concepts in particular, which is Jiyarat and Qawwali, right? So the first point here, what is basically Jiyarat, right? So Jiyarat is this pilgrimage. As I was telling you, pilgrimage gained importance, especially after the death of Nizamuddin, right? So people used to visit his tombs of not just Nizamuddin but other Sufi saints, other Chisti Sufi saints as well. Yeah. And the mere act of pilgrimage in itself gained so much importance in all of the Muslim world. So it kind of reached to such an extreme point that if I'm a Muslim and if I believe in Sheikh Nizamuddin, and if I'm not able to go visit his dargah, like if for some reasons I'm not just able to go and visit, then it kind of became like, like you won't be getting blessings from him, or like it's some kind of sin you're committing. It kind of reached that extremes. So that is how much important pilgrimage was back in those times. Yeah. So obviously, when people actually went and visited, in return they were looking for the spiritual grace of the Sufi saint. Basically, they were looking for his blessings. Yeah, that kind of blessings is called as barakat, right? The spelling is here. It's barakat. Again, pronunciation might differ, guys, because these are some kind of Persian terms which you are referring to. So pronunciation might change a little bit here and there, but basically remember the concept. Yeah. So cool. So that was that. And next we'll be looking at 5 very important Chisti saints. So again, as I was telling you, Chisti is this one great order within the Sufi order. Yeah. So there are 5 great Chisti saints, and irrespective of creed, class, or social background, irrespective of all that, if you believe in the Chisti order, yeah, people from different walks of life, different regions, like different geographical regions, they paid a visit to the dargahs of these 5 great Chisti saints in order to express their devotion, right? It just kind of gave them some kind of solace, some kind of satisfaction, right? Okay, like now I've visited the dargah of my favorite saint, like the saint I believe in. So that basically means I am blessed by him, and therefore it's a good positive sign in my life. Yeah, so that association was there to visiting dargahs. So who are those 5 great Chisti saints, right? So the names of them are here. Again, not important to remember all the names, but just remember Nizamuddin Aulia's name because he's really important, right? So the first one, Sheikh Moinuddin Sizzi, yeah, he is the founder of the Chisti order, and after his death, his dargah, or like he was buried in Ajmer, present day Rajasthan. Yeah, again, dargahs are nothing but the tombs, right? So his tomb or his dargah is in Ajmer. And the second Chisti saint is Khwaja Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki. Don't need to remember the names again. And once he died, his tomb was built in Delhi, right? The third Chisti saint is Sheikh Fariduddin Ganj-i Shakar. Yeah, his body was buried in Azodan. Azodan is in present day Pakistan, right? So this place is in Pakistan, and his body was buried there. And the fourth one, the famous one which we have been talking till now, is Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia. His dargah is in Delhi, very famous, on the banks of river Yamuna. And lastly, there is Sheikh Nasiruddin Chirag-e Delhi, right? His tomb again is located in Delhi, right? So out of the 5 major Chishti saints, 3 of the tombs are located in Delhi, right? And one of them is in Ajmer and the other one is in present day Ajodan, which is in Pakistan, right? So that was like a brief intro as to who are the 5 Chishti saints and where their dargahs are. Yeah. So that was Ziyarat. And yeah, so among all these, the most revered shrine, like revered is nothing but respected, right? A lot of importance given to them. So the Khwaja Muinuddin's Dargah was very, very respected. It was very much revered, right? It was popularly called as Garib Nawaz, right? It has this particular name given to it. The shrine was called as Garib Nawaz. Why? Uh, because he was the comforter of the poor. Garib is poor, yeah. Nawaz is like the comforter or like some kind of royal person. So when he was alive, he used to help a lot of poor people. Like he sort of gave that comfort to the poor people, right? So that is why he got this title called as Garib Nawaz. Yeah. So we're talking about Khwaja Muinuddin here. Yeah. So again, the earliest textual references to Khwaja Muinuddin Dargah, like one of the basic intro or like the starting textual evidences we have, dates back to 14th century, right? In as early as 14th century texts talk about the Khwaja Muinuddin Dargah and how people used to visit it in great numbers. Yeah. So obviously, like, why did people go there? There has to be some reason, right, for so many people to go there. Obviously, it's because of the austerity and piety of its sheikh. Who was the sheikh here? The sheikh was Khwaja Muinuddin. Khwaja Muinuddin, while he was alive, he served a lot of poor. He had that soft corner in everybody's mind, right? So that is why people knew his greatness. People knew his greatness of his spiritual successors, right? So that is why they believed in Khwaja Muinuddin and they paid a lot of visits to his dargah. And also there was a lot of royal patronage, right? Royal patronage as in like when the dargah was being built, for example, the local king or like the local ruler, he used to donate some kind of wealth or fundings in order to construct the dargah, right? So why will the king give it in the first place? Because king also believes in Khwaja Muinuddin Dargah, right? Like he follows the principles of Khwaja Muinuddin. That is why he kinds of funds these institutions and they were built. And like if king himself is believing in such great people, why not us, right? There are people with that kind of mentality also. King himself is believing, which means he must be really, really great. So that is why even I believe in Khwaja Muinuddin. People used to actually have this thought process, right? So that happened and people basically paid a lot of visits. And we'll be talking about one particular ruler here, which is Muhammad bin Tughlaq. In shortcut, most of the historians call him as MBT, right? Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He, again, one of the very, very important kings of the Delhi Sultanate, yeah, belonging to Tughlaq dynasty, and he ruled for almost 27 years. That is a really long period, guys. Yeah, he ruled from 1324 to 1351. Yeah, 27 years of amazing reign. He's also known for his other market reforms and all that stuff, but we are not going there. Yeah, we're just looking at how he was the first sultan to visit the shrine. Yeah, out of all the Delhi Sultanate kings, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the first person to visit the shrine of Khwaja Muinuddin. Yeah, and like he just visited, he did not donate anything, But on the contrary, the first person who donated or like funded for the development of the dargah was Sultan Ghiyasuddin Khalji. Yeah, Sultan Ghiyasuddin was again a very, very important ruler of the Delhi Sultanate. He belonged to the Khilji dynasty or Khalji dynasty. It differs from textbook to textbook. He was ruling over the region of Malwa, right? So in the late 15th century, he actually went and visited Khwaja Muinuddin's Dargah. He was really, really impressed by it. He started believing in all the principles of Khwaja Muinuddin. And finally, when it was time for Khwaja Muinuddin's Dargah to be developed or like constructed further, like expanded or decorated, right? Reconstructing, modifying, like all these should happen from time to time. Otherwise, with time, the buildings will collapse. Like the dargah also will collapse. So from time to time, repairs has to be done. Some kind of decoration has to be done and stuff like that. So once Sultan Ghiyasuddin in late 15th century actually funded for the construction of the house of the tomb. Right? So that was the effort or like the contribution of Sultan Ghiyasuddin. And lastly, the mere fact that the shrine was located on the trade route linking Delhi and Gujarat. Yeah, so his tomb was right in between Delhi and Gujarat. Like that road which kinds of connect Delhi and Gujarat, that particular highway, right? It's located right on the middle of the trade route, and therefore when travelers kept moving from one place to another, from Gujarat to Delhi, from Delhi to Gujarat, it was very, very easy to access the shrine, right? To pay a visit to the shrine, it was pretty close. You don't have to make a way to some other region like specifically for the dargah, but while you're traveling itself, you can visit the shrine, right? So in that way also a lot of travelers were attracted to the dargah, right? So that brings us to the end of the slide. Again, guys, any questions, keep asking them. Okay, I do not see any questions. So I'll continue. Okay, it attracted a lot of travelers. Cool. So now we are moving from 15th to 16th century, a century later. By the end of 16th century, though, the shrine had become very, very popular. Like literally not just from surrounding areas, but from different parts of the Indian subcontinent. Kashmir, south, west, east, whatever the place is, people have been paying lots and lots of visits to the shrine, right? In fact, like even Akbar visited the shrine so many times. Akbar, a very, very great king, ruling in the 16th century. Even he visited the shrine for so many times, right? To be very specific, he went there for 14 times. That is a lot, guys. Like you're going to the same place for 14 times, matlab, just imagine how much significance or how much importance did the dargah hold in the eyes of these visitors, right? So Akbar went for 14 times and sometimes 2-3 times a year. Yeah. What did he go for? If he goes, obviously he'll ask for something, right? He'll seek for the blessings. So sometimes he used to go for, like let's say he's going to a conquest, like he's waging a war on the neighboring kingdom. Then he'll be like, like, okay, I'm doing this conquest, so please bless me and grant me victory. Like make sure that I win this conquest, right? So that kind of things also, like he used to go and worship, basically get blessings from the Chishti saint, and sometimes fulfillment of vows, right? And also for birth of sons. Yeah, in order for him to have sons, yeah, people who could carry on the legacy of the dynasty further, legacy of the Mughal dynasty. Obviously sons need to be there, because daughters in those days were not eligible to take over the kingdoms or the throne, right? So in order for sons to be born, he went and seeked the blessings of the Chishti saints, right? So again, he maintained this tradition of going and visiting the dargah for 14 times. He only did that until 1580, right? Remember this year, 1580. He stopped going to dargah after that. Again, why? There has to be a reason, right? So again, this is just outside the purview of the textbook, but let me just give you a basic intro that after 1580, actually the religious beliefs of Akbar started changing. Yeah, so if any of you all know the Mughal history in detail, especially Akbar's reign, you must have come across this word called Din-i-Ilahi, right? So Din-i-Ilahi. It was basically a religion founded by Akbar himself. Like from 1580, he had all these discussions, debates, negotiations going on between a lot of religious scholars. Yeah, he invited a lot of religious scholars from different parts of the world. They used to come, sit with Akbar. They used to have all these meetings and discuss in great length as to what or who God is. Yeah, what is his role? Is there a one God or are there multiple gods? Like philosophical questions, right? So finally he came to a conclusion that it's time for him to set up a new religion. Yeah, so that is why he sets up a religion called Din-i-Ilahi after 1580. So that means that he stopped believing in dargahs and all that stuff. That is why he didn't visit dargahs after 1580, right? Okay, so that was about Akbar. And also, like, another point is, whenever he used to visit these dargahs before 1580, obviously, um, he gave a lot of gifts. Like, he donated them very, very generously to the dargah, right? They were further used to for some kind of development of the dargah itself. But irrespective of what it was used for, he though made so many generous gifts, right? Generous donations. And all of these donations were actually recorded in the imperial documents. Again, some kings might have want to boast about it, saying, like, be proud of it, like, I've donated this to the dargah, I've donated that, I've donated a piece of land, stuff like that. But some might have just put it just for the record's sake. Yeah, irrespective of the intention, all these generous gifts that were made were recorded in the imperial documents. Yeah, and one such kind of generous gift was in the year 1568 when he visited the dargah. He offered a huge cauldron, which in technical terms is called as deg or deg, right, to facilitate cooking for pilgrims. Again, as I was telling you, so many people used to eat in the dargah, right? It was a community feeding. So in order to cook so much, they needed all these like huge utensils, right? Like huge, uh, I'm not really sure of the simple term, but I'm hoping everybody knows what cauldrons are, right? Basically huge utensils, huge dishes. So he donated those as they'll be useful for the cooking purpose. Yeah, and that is one kind of example. The other kind of example is he actually funded for the construction of a mosque within the compound of dargah. So even if you visit the dargah right now, just beside that you will find that there's a mosque, and that mosque was funded by Akbar, right? So these are some of the important contributions that Akbar has made for the development of the dargah, right? Also, like as a part of the ziyarat is nothing but a pilgrimage, as I was telling you. Yeah. So as part of the ziyarat is the use of music and dance, including mystical chants. So whenever this pilgrimage was happening, it kind of sounds like a very huge affair, right? Like a very, very big deal. Because when people are paying visits to the dargah, they made sure that they are worshipping the dargah in a very proper manner. As in, they are singing, they are dancing, they are chanting all these, like some kind of mantras. I'm not sure if I can use the word mantra, but you all know what chanting is, right? So all those mystical chants were being made, and in some cases, trained musicians were actually recruited, they were paid to evoke that divine ecstasy, right? So when somebody is actually singing and dancing or like chanting all these mystical hymns, it kind of gives that divine vibe or divine mood, right? So that kinds of things were very much prevalent as a part of the ziyarat. Okay, so that happened, and one of the major ways for Sufis to worship God is by reciting the zikr. Yeah, zikr is nothing but the divine names. Most of y'all must have already know that the word Allah, right, is just one word of the God. There are so many other names which the God has, right? So just by reciting those names is a form of worship that the Sufis carried out, right? So Sufis used to recite the zikr, yeah, and they used to also perform all these mystical musics. That is another kind of worship, right? And lastly, sama was integral to the chistis. Sama, guys, is nothing but the performance of mystical music, right? It was very much an integral part of the chistis, and it exemplified interaction with indigenous devotional traditions. Yeah. So the point basically here is chanting those hymns and all again is a very Indian way of doing, Indian way of worshipping. Yeah. So once Chistis came into the Indian subcontinent, they have adopted this local tradition in order to lure the local audience, right? So again, just by doing that, the mere fact that they are performing all these mystical musical performances, that kind of attracted the local populations, and that's a kind of worshipping God, right? So that's that, and nextly we'll move on to one of the boxes in your textbook. Yeah, that box is called as the story of Data Guns Baksh. Yeah, again, Data Guns Baksh. um, so basically, again, the brief pretext or background to who this Data Guns Baksh is. In the year 1039, yeah, the mid 11th century, basically, Abul Hasan al-Huzwari, this is the name of the person, Abul Hasan al-Huzwari, right? So he actually was not an Indian, like did not belong to the Indian subcontinent. He in fact lived in Afghanistan. To be very specific, he belonged to Ghazni, right? Ghazni is a place in Afghanistan, right? Um, and a small town called Huzvir, right? So he actually resided there. And why? How did he come to India? Right? He was an Afghan by default, like by birth, and when Turkish army actually invaded Afghanistan, Turkish army won the war. Yeah. So you know these war captives, right? So in the same manner, Abul Hasan al-Huzwari also became one of the war captives under the Turkish army, right? So when Turkish army was actually coming to invade India, they have brought Abul Hasan al-Huzwari along with them. So that is how his journey from Afghanistan to India happened. And eventually he settled down in India itself, right? So he settled in Lahore, to be very specific, and after the war ended, he could not go back to Afghanistan, so he just stayed there in Lahore and started writing so many books. Yeah, so one of the books which he wrote was called as Kashful Mahjoob, right? He wrote this in Persian because his native language was Persian. And if you translate the title of the book, which is Kashful Mahjoob, into English terms, it literally translates to Unveiling of the Unveiled. Yeah, this is one of the very, very powerful books that he wrote. And what is the content of this book? Right? It basically deals with Sufis. He starts explaining what Sufism is, how did Sufism come up, when did this come up, who actually follows Sufism, who can become a Sufi saint, like all these questions relating to Sufi and Sufi saints. These kinds of questions and discussions happened as a part of the content of the Kashful Mahzoob book, right? And so he wrote that book, but there was a time of death for him as well. He died in the year 1073, right? And since he was in Lahore, he was buried in Lahore itself. He was not taken back to Afghanistan, but even now his body is in Lahore, right? So, okay, that's the story of Abul Hasan al-Huzwari, right? So now if we move on to another person who is the grandson of Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni. Yeah, Muhammad of Ghor, Muhammad of Ghazni, names which we've all heard of in 8th, 9th standards, right? So Muhammad of Ghazni actually had a grandson. Again, we don't know what the name of that grandson is, but there was a grandson who actually believed in the principles of Abul Hasan al-Huzwari, right? He followed Abul Hasan, and therefore he constructed a tomb over his grave. Yeah, he constructed a tomb, and his tomb became a very important pilgrimage site, right? After that, he has so many devotees, he has so many followers, right? So that is how his shrine also became important, because the grandson of Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni constructed a tomb over his grave, right? So people till today visit that tomb on his death anniversary, right? And so this Huzwari, yeah, Abul Hasan al-Huzwari, he is respected as Data Guns Baksh. Like, he had this title. The title is Data Guns Baksh, right? If you translate it, roughly it means giver who bestows treasures, right? So that's his literal translation of the title. And his mausoleum is nothing but the dargah, right? His mausoleum is called as Data Darbar or Court of the Giver. Yeah, again, factual details. Try to remember them because these might be asked in the MCQ format, right? So it's best that you remember these names. Yeah. So that's the little story of Data Guns Baksh. How a very common person, in fact a war captive, who traveled from Afghanistan to Lahore, how he was successful enough in writing a book, how he kind of lured the audience into believing his principles, and finally was very, very famous that a tomb was built for him. Yeah, story of a common person to that of a great saint. Cool, so that's the story. Okay, Sujal has a comment to make. He's 11th standard student though. Okay, that's actually good to hear, Sujal. Thanks for informing me, by the way. I'm really glad your exam went well, and I'm also happy that I was able to contribute something. So, good for you, Sujal. Cool. So, okay, we'll move on to the class. This is, I think, the last slide we'll be dealing with. So just bear with me for another couple of minutes, guys. Yeah. So the last slide is titled as the lamp of the entire land. Again, this is one of the boxes you have. These are not source boxes. These are just normal boxes, right? These are boxes which you have in page number 157 of your textbook. Again, very important, right? So it's titled as the lamp of the entire land, and the content goes as such that each Sufi shrine was associated with distinctive features, right? Every Sufi shrine is unique. It has its own nice features, right? Just like that, in the 18th century, when a random anonymous visitor from Deccan, yeah, from the Deccan Peninsula, when he visited the shrine of Nasiruddin Chirag-e Delhi. Who is he? We've already talked about him a couple of slides earlier. He is the last Chishti saint, right? So a person by name Dargah Kuli Khan, like his name in itself is Dargah Kuli Khan. He visited the shrine of Nasiruddin Chirag-e Delhi, yeah, in his Muraka-i Delhi. So he writes, yeah, he says that the sheikh in the grave is not the lamp of Delhi. You know, like whatever the sheikh, whatever this dead body is, or whatever this dargah signifies, it is not just important for the people of Delhi itself. It does not have significance just in Delhi, but the entire country knows of the grave, knows of the dargah. That is how important, or that is how significant the sheikh of the grave of the sheikh is, right? So people turned up there in crowds, particularly on Sundays. Yeah, Sundays people are free, so obviously the dargah was very much crowded on Sundays, and especially in the month of Diwali, right? The entire population of Delhi visits it and stays in tents around the spring tanks for days. Visiting is one thing, yeah, visiting, staying there for an hour or so and then coming back, but actually going and visiting it and staying there for like days and days together and building your own residence, like building your own tents, staying in those tents for so many days is a completely different thing. So during the Diwali season, this kind of activity used to happen. So what does all of this signify? It basically tells us that the shrine of Nasiruddin Chirag has a lot of importance attached to it, right? So yeah, again, they used to take baths to obtain cures from chronic diseases. A very Brahmanical way of worshipping, right? So what do like Hindus or like generally Brahmins do? They dip themselves in water 2-3 times so that their sin will be washed away or they'll be cured of diseases and stuff like that. That local tradition was adopted by Chishti devotees as well. Even they used to dip themselves in water, like they used to take all those holy sacred baths. In return, they expected that their illness will be like they can get rid of their illness, right? They'll become healthy again. So these sacred baths were there. And lastly, Muslims and Hindus paid visits to with the same spirit. As I was telling you in the initial minutes of the class, it's not just Muslims who visit dargahs, but also Hindus showed the same interest. They had the same spirit in visiting the dargah of the of all these Chishti saints, right? And lastly, from morning till evening, people came, they worshipped, you know, and also they kept themselves busy in merrymaking in the shades of the tree. As in, they used to come. What was the purpose of coming and visiting the shrine? The major reason was obviously because they wanted to worship the dargah. Yeah, but it was not entirely a religious activity. The fact that they came, they had fun, like fun as in not like partying and all that stuff. Fun as in they derived happiness from visiting all these dargahs, right? They created their own situations of merrymaking, right? Merry is joy or happiness, right? They created their own happiness, you know, like they sat under the shades of these trees which were outside the dargah. They used to interact with people, they made their own social life, basically that was a very happy-go-lucky environment sorts, right? So yeah, so that was the importance of Nasiruddin Chirag's dargah, right? Cool. So that brings us to the end of the class, as I was telling you. Cool. Okay. Kashish is there with us. Hello, Kashish. I'm good. Thanks for asking. I'm doing great. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so you're a UP board student. Cool. I'm not really sure of the syllabus of the UP board, Kashish. So I'm not sure in what ways I can guide you. But like if you have any specific doubts as sorts, you can ask in the chat box, right? Cool. So that's the end of the class, guys. Yeah. Um, any questions, any clarifications you all need, please put them down in the chat box. I will answer them. Yeah. But in the meanwhile, since we're already past time, I will quickly try to wind up this session. So I was talking about the Unacademy Plus and Iconic benefits initially, right? So there's a special offer actually going on right now. It started on 18th of September and it's going to end by the end of this month. So it's a very limited offer. Yeah. So what is the offer? So if you can use my code, which is TUM10, you will already get a 10% off straight away while making these subscriptions. But if you take a subscription in these span of 1 week, 10 days, you will get an extra 5% off on a 9-month subscription and an extra 10% off on a subscription which goes on for more than 12 plus months, right? So it's a limited offer. Go grab yours before it ends, right? So yeah, thank you so much for coming in. Also, if you like the content of these videos, please do like the video, share it as much as possible, and also subscribe to the channel Unacademy. Yeah, also scholars in particular, right? Again, a sincere thanks for everybody who turned up very dedicatedly at 6 p.m. every day, right? So I'm hoping you all took something away from this class, like learned something new. Cool. Please ask scholars team to introduce physical education. Okay, that's a good idea, Sujal. Sure, I can convey the message on behalf of you. Cool, I can do that, Sujal. Yeah, so guys, so that brings us to the end of the class. But any questions, please feel free to put them down in the chat box. But otherwise, that's the end. That's the end of today's class. So it's Monday today, right? So the next class is going to be on Wednesday, right? Wednesday we'll meet at same time, which is 6 p.m. and we will continue with this chapter itself. Yeah, so I know this chapter is a little bit longer than the other chapters we have dealt with. It's taking a lot of time, but nonetheless it's a really important chapter. So we will finish it in time. Don't worry about that. We'll have revision sessions as well. Yeah. So just to give you heads up as to what we will be dealing with in the next class, we'll start off the class with one of the pilgrimage visits by one of the Mughal queens. I think it's Jahanara, right? So it's some source box in your textbook. So we'll start with that source box and then deal with some of the languages and some kind of communication used in the Sufi order itself, right? So we'll deal with that. So I'm hoping everybody will tune in for Wednesday's class. The timing is the same. It's at 6 p.m. right? I'm hoping to see you all there. Until then, have a good evening today and also have a good day tomorrow, right? I'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Cool. Bye, everyone. Also, I'll just hang around for a couple of seconds in case anybody has questions. But if not, you'll are free to leave. Yeah. Thank you again for tuning in. Okay, so I'm taking that as nobody has any questions. Then that actually brings us to the end of the class. So as I've told y'all, next class is on Wednesday, 6 p.m. I'll see y'all there. Until then, have a good evening and a good day tomorrow. So bye guys.